Right, morning and welcome everybody. New week, a new opportunity, a new chance to do something different. So yeah, we're going to do the same thing, but some people might want to do different things. But it's going to be the same, but it's going to be different. So we're talking this morning about applying what we've learned. So it sort of followed out of the conversation from Friday where we spoke about people who've influenced our lives and things that have influenced our lives. And so the real question is, what are we doing with those things, with those insights, with those inspirations, with those ideas? How are we applying them? So Thabiso, you seem to be the man of the moment. So I'm going to come across to you. You've done a lot of reading and a lot of thinking. So how much action have you actually taken? Let's hear from you.
Okay, I think it was actually Nietzsche who said, God is dead. And of course, Nietzsche is a bit biased because he has a problem with religion. He thinks that, religion is controlling people and in the name of, faith. And okay, I guess you could make, a point regarding that, but it was in Brave New World rather. And it said that religion is actually, the opium of the people. So I guess in a sense, I understand that, I understand what Nietzsche is trying to say, but I think what he meant by that phrase, God is dead, is that you should do something, no one is actually coming out to save you. You should strive to do something. Just do something, just do something. And it doesn't have to be too much. Just pick the tiniest step, so that you can actually move on. Pick one step and then another step will appear for you to actually go on, So I think that is very important. You need to have something that is bigger than you so you can at least push forward in the world, do something. You can't just be passive and not do anything, because that on its own, it produces a kind of a negative mentality, because you don't have purpose. And when you don't have purpose, nihilistic thoughts creep in, and it can actually open gates of depression and anxiety, and you might even end up killing yourself because you do not have a compass, So I think that you should do something. I think I'll just talk about, my albums, my EP rather, and how I came about actually creating them. It was last year, and I wanted to create an album, but I didn't have infrastructure, so I just decided to table up the pros and cons. And on the positive spectrum of the side, I had I had talent, I had content, and on the cons, I didn't have resources and I didn't have infrastructure. I didn't think that that's a no-brainer, because it's 3-1. I can do something. I can do something. Of course, I don't have software or maybe things to actually record, but I can do something. I do have my cell phone, and what I did is that I actually started researching softwares that I can actually create music on my cell phone. It took a while, but I finally got, the perfect software. And I got the software and I started creating music on my cell phone. But, I still didn't have, a place to record. So I just thought, maybe if I can just go to the park, because where I live in Alex, it's so clustered and it's so noisy. But if I can go to Sandton, at least I'll have something, it's a bit more quiet. So if I can go to the park, I'll just record from there, So that was my plan. It wasn't a good plan, because how am I going to record in the park, But I was just so concentrated and it was just what I wanted to do. You know, Nietzsche said that when you have a why, everything else falls apart. You know, you don't see anything on the sides. You just want to complete that task, you know. So I actually went to the park here in NSP Park, you know, and with the music playing in my headset, I started recording, but it was outside. But you know, there was the wind and there was this, so I couldn't really, you know, the content didn't come out the way I wanted it to, you know. So, you know, what I did is that I started looking around and I looked around and there was an answer right next to me and it was like a toilet, you know, a mobile toilet. So I just went inside, man. I was like, yes, you know, I'll do this no matter what. I actually went inside the toilet and I started recording. I recorded, I think like 6 tracks. And on the 7th track, one guy actually, you know, came up to the door, started knocking at the door. And I ignored him at first, you know, and then he came back after like 2 or 3 minutes, you know, and I came out like really annoyed and irritated because I was in a state of flow, you know. When you're in that state, you didn't know what it was, you know. So I came out, but I was wrong, you know, because it's like it's a public domain, you know, it's a public toilet. So I'm wrong. So I couldn't be like, you know, be angry or stuff like that. You know, I was like very professional with the guy. He was like, oh, sorry, did I disturb you? I was like, no, man, you know, it happens. He told me that he just wanted to get inside and I was like, okay, man, you can use the toilet. And I waited for him outside. I waited for him outside, you know, and when he was done, immediately I went inside the toilet and I completed, you know, the album because it was important to me, you know. I didn't care about the order or anything like that. My focus was actually getting to a place of flow again. I wanted to get in a place of flow so that I can actually complete the EP, you know. That was so important to me. And I actually completed the project. And when I was done, I took everything and I went to social media, you know, I posted a thing and I actually got like 50 downloads. It was a great day. I won't lie. I was happy with everything because 50 downloads, come on, where are you gonna get 50 downloads? It was a successful day. And the album, you know, it sounded very good. I'm very happy. You should always do something. There's always something you can do to actually make your situation better. You know, you should always push, aim. Um, God is dead. You know, do what you can. Motivate yourself. Do things.
We seem to have lost Thabiso, unfortunately. Ah, there he is. No. I think we've lost him temporarily, unfortunately, in the middle of that amazing story. That takes a bit of ingenuity and perseverance. Are you back with us, Thabiso? We lost you there for a moment.
Oh, okay. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back now. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry about that. I think that you have to do something. I think that's what I can say about today. You know, like push, do something. God is dead. Do what you can so that you can actually be proud of yourself at the end of the day. You know, because if you are not proud of yourself, confidence, and when you don't have confidence, you know. So I think that's just my contribution. Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you, Thabiso. Amazing story. So well done with that. And why don't you post the link to your EP in the chat box, and you can get some additional downloads. There we go there. So Jasper, on that note, I think we better get across to you. I'm not too sure why I'm picking you next, but you probably know.
Well, hats off and applause to Thabiso for perseverance. And I think you just epitomize that. If the why is strong enough, the how doesn't matter. It fits in with the whole philosophy that we have in the chamber as well, is get to your minimum viable product as fast as you can without it costing you money, and do what you can with what you have. So I was unfortunately not part of the discussion on Friday, and I was a bit shocked to hear that opening statement of God is dead. It will certainly ruffle my feathers. But the way you then handled it, I think, was wonderful, is to say, I think you're right. For a lot of people, God is dead because they don't see the manifestation of his presence in their life. And I also have a big problem with religion. I 100% agree. Religion is a man-made system to fill a void in people's lives. And they actually just then worsen the problem. But then, fortunately, I also don't need to take part in any debate on God, because for me, he's a living presence, and I experience him on a daily basis, and I'm quite comfortable in his presence. But it's free to any person to do what they want with that knowledge. So I'm not going down that road. But if from what Ivan then said about what do you do with this knowledge, I think I've got it right. It's how do we apply what we've learned? It took me back to how I probably changed as a person, because when I went into the corporate world, coming from where I was coming from, I was extremely driven and ambitious and motivated, and wanting to master almost everything so that I could do it. And I always had a philosophy that if it's to be done well, then I have to do it, because I don't trust other people to do it. And it made me effective to a certain point. And at one stage, I built a nice group of people around me. But we all have blind spots, and I thank that one guy eventually to be so annoyed with me that he actually then told me what was it about me that annoyed him. And it was something simple. It was just that I felt I was so good in all the things that I was doing that I didn't allow them to help me and participate, and they didn't feel part of the whole thing. And I realized first of all, the power of a blind spot, that if you don't know about it, you can't change it. And it took me a while to allow people to come into the projects and stuff that I do. And even if they don't do it as well as I think I would have done it, to allow them to grow into what they feel is their passion, and to take it from there. So I think the person I am today versus the person I was 20 years ago is chalk and cheese. So I'm very much that I would not have been able today, which is now a massive growing thing, but I have very little to do with it, because I've learned how to work with people and see their skills and then release them in total freedom, and not try and micromanage people, just let them be. And today we're very blessed with some fantastic people in the group. So so that was something that I learned, because it came out of an unpleasant situation where a guy just burst out in terms of his annoyance with my style, but then out of learning, and it was a gradual application over many years. I'm quite comfortable today that I've discovered a way to get much more done without me necessarily having to be the chief cook and bottle washer and everything. I think that the next thing that I've learned is you always work from limitations. And what I mean by is think generations, but live daily and in the moment. So I'm constantly having so many things on my desk to do that in a way they're all important, but I can only focus on one thing at a time. And it's an old story of what is the biggest frog that you need to eat right now. So I've learned to be a bit more patient and to try and in that day, just do what I can. And many days I can't even complete that. And it has to stand over and it might take days and sometimes weeks to finish the task. And in the meantime, the other stuff heap up and can overwhelm and frustrate you. But as long as you steadily move forward with the important issues, then eventually you can look back and say, okay, that was achieved. And with that comes then the patience to, and that's why I enjoyed what Thabisa shared there, is to say, understand the big picture and work systematically towards the big picture, but what can you do right now with what you have? So start where you're at with what you have. And then there's a saying, God won't leave you where you're at, and he will take you and he'll add to what you have. But yeah, so that's what I've learned, how I've applied it.
Great, thanks, Jasper. And I was just about to tell Thabisa, oh, there he comes back again, so maybe I can. Thabisa, Jasper's also a recording artist, so maybe the two of you should get together and do a bit of a crossover album of some sort. So I know he didn't record his in the toilet, so you'll have to introduce him to that experience. But
yeah, I think we have to do something, definitely.
there you go. Great stuff. So Edward, over to you next.
Yeah, I know why you're coming over to me, because Jasper's just annoyed me. Eating frogs, indeed. I don't know, especially seeing as I'm vegan. And Thabisa, that was such an amazing, inspiring story, and I think there's so many lessons in there. Please do put how we can get your music into the chat, because that would be really amazing to be able to listen to what came out of the toilet. So I either put it in the chat or perhaps email it to Ivan and he can send it round. I've got a toilet story, actually. I was once in a race dressed as a nun, and there's a lovely picture of me coming out of the portable toilet dressed as a nun, and it's just one of my favorite photographs, actually. Yeah, I kind of struggled when I first thought about this subject, and then I remembered what I read in a book I'm reading called The Impact Code by a guy called Nigel Risner. And he said, when all is said and done, much more is said than done. And I think a lot of people read all these books, they read all the theory, they listen to all the stuff, and they don't put it into action. And action is the thing that, the application of all that knowledge, all that experience, all that learning. And Nigel's got a very good little, and people who know me know I hate acronyms, but his acronym is GOYA, G-O-Y-A, get off your arse. And I think that's the key thing, you know, nothing happens unless you actually take some action. And I just thought of a couple of times, and I love the fact that Thabisa, he talks about Nietzsche, he talks about Bob Marley, Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs, you know, amazing range of people. And my Nietzsche thing is, there's a quote, what doesn't destroy me makes me stronger. And I always took that to be a macho thing, that you take things on and you defeat them. But I looked at it in a different way. Don't let things destroy you. And I think, you know, Thabisa showed that. Hasn't got anywhere to record, so finds where he can go. Goes to a park. Oh, that's not good enough. There's too much noise. Oh, there's a toilet. Let's get nipped in the toilet. Yeah, brilliant. And I also take it when you're in a race. You know, it's really, really important in a race not to give up, because, you know, if you give up, then you just, well, you give up, isn't it? But there's times when it's right to give up, because you don't want it to destroy you. You want it to make you stronger. And if you can come out from a did not finish with a stronger mindset, more chance of succeeding again, then it didn't destroy you, it didn't defeat you. But if you let it pummel you into just a complete wreck, then it has destroyed you. It hasn't made you stronger. And there's a couple of bits of, I don't know, training I've put into practice. You might remember during the, and it might not have been a recorded bit, but during the Tales from the Trails Running Summit, I talked about how Estienne had designed this buff, which he wanted to be iconic, and it was rubbish. And his wife got one designed by a graphic designer, and it was beautiful. And Estienne hated it. And my job was to get Estienne to like it. And I'd just done a course on a thing called pacing and leading, which basically, if you disagree with someone, rather than smack them on the nose, you come alongside them, kind of agree with them. You find places where you can find some sort of common ground, and then very gradually change the direction and move them slowly, leading them by the hand, taking them with you. And it took me 3 days of using this approach to get Estienne to agree to that buff. But it did work. Had I had the argument and said, Estienne, you're a stupid idiot, and smacked him on the nose, we wouldn't have got anywhere. So that was an application of some learning about pacing and leading. And then about 6 months later, I did another course, which was called Consultative Planning. And it was all about getting the person you're talking to come up with the plan that you want. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And the guy that ran the course actually wrote on a flip chart what we'd all say at the end of the course. And he hid it. And then when we got to the end of the course, he turned it over and it was exactly what we said. So it was interesting. And then a friend of mine who has run Comrades a few times, she wanted to get her marathon time faster. And she came to see me and asked me for my advice. And all she needed to do was lose a bit of weight and run fast and train harder. But you try telling that to a strong-willed woman who's run Comrades a few times. She's going to poke me in the eye, isn't she? So I took her out for dinner and I went through this consultative planning process. And at the end of the dinner, she said, oh, you know what, Edward, I've been thinking, what I need to do is to lose some weight and train harder. Job done. So I think, you know, all this stuff you learn, there's no point learning it. And some of those other lessons you learn the hard way, unless you put them into action. So action speaks louder than words. And all the planning, all the reading, all the faffing about doesn't do anything unless you actually take that first step, and then the next step, and then the next step. So yeah, that's my thoughts on application. And I love that thing, but there's always something you can do to make your situation better, which Thabiso said. So I'm going to remember that.
Great, thanks, Ed. Yeah, some great inputs and insights there. And yeah, I've got a challenge for you. I've got someone who needs a bit of pacing and leading and you know, consultative planning, but yeah, it's like talking to a brick wall. But anyway, we won't talk about him at the moment. So yeah, I'm just going to go straight across to Trevor.
So listen, I'm going to agree with both Ivan and Ed. That's because if I don't, I'm probably going to smack them on the ear roll. But I'm coming back. Hang on, as you guys were talking, I was just thinking about this. I'm amazed at Thabiso, where he gets this Nietzsche nonsense from in Alex. I mean, where's Nietzsche in Alex, and how does he do this sort of thing? Alex not supposed to have any of this stuff. But what I was looking at while you guys were speaking was just the range of books that are here, and that so many people buy so many books. This is Tactics by Edward de Bono, The Art and Science of Success. And people buy the books, but they don't really read them or apply them. If I had to go through this, I see that I must have got this many, many years ago. It's in green underline. And just like in life, I think if I had to go back I think I've managed to simplify the concept of applying what you learn down into a 1, 2, 3 formula. That for most things that you see, for most people that are super successful, you can actually get the book. But what you should be searching for, the 1, 2, 3 most exciting points, perhaps most profound points that have meaning to you at the time. And I think it depends on your state of mind when you're reading these type of publications. If you're unhappy, you're probably not going to focus on those things that are going to make you happy. And I believe the secret to finding happiness is to take action, any old action, even if it just means getting up in the morning and going for a walk for 1 kilometer, then 3 kilometers, then 5 kilometers, then a comrades marathon. It all starts with the first bit of action. And it's really, what are the simple 1, 2, 3 things of success? If I open this up here, I've just flipped to a page. What does it say? The most important single thing is having an idea and putting it into practice and seeing it bear fruit, by a guy by the name of Gerald Newman. Now, that's probably one of over 1,000 little ideas that are in this book. And if you're unhappy and you haven't got a clue what to do today, you could actually take that comment and sit down, look at it for the day, and come up with some simple ideas. The most important single thing is having an idea and putting it into practice and seeing it bear fruit. Now, wasn't that Thabiso's story? That he had his idea. He said, I needed this soundproof room. He found his soundproof room in a park. And I must admit, I saw a little video this morning, which was of 2 guys who had an old Harley Davidson. And you know, the Harley Davidson goes, and it has this, Ivan will know, it has this beat all the time. And they pulled out 2 guitars and they played a 3-minute tune to the beat of the Harley Davidson just ticking over in the background. So I wondered what noise Thabiso was using as his boombox beat in his soundproof room. I could just imagine, was it a plop, 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 plop type sort of scenario? So the plop thickens here, Thabiso. No, look, not to be irreverent. If I go back to my younger days and trying to work out how to get to the top in the various little things that I was doing, I was looking for the guys who were at the top, and I was trying to watch them at the best of the best, what they actually did, and I ignored everything else and I tried to copy what they actually did. And that allowed me to actually leapfrog to where I wanted to go. And I did that in business. When I came up to Joburg to launch the largest ever education franchise in the country, my wife and kids were still down in Durban. I spent 90 solid days. I had a book. What was that book? I think it was something to do. It was probably Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And I turned that command center into a war zone command center, which meant things to me, if you guys know the background to some of us in South Africa in those days. And I had a battle strategy, and I used that strategy, which was almost a simple 1, 2, 3. Let's just do this, get out there, apply the plans, and make this thing work. And within 18 months, I had 42 franchises in the country, 80,000 students through that operation, which allowed me to sell that into a listed entity. And that was all just simply taking action, the type of action that Thabiso took. So I'm amazed listening to Thabiso's story, because his age and my age at that particular time sort of coincide. I'd love to hear where Thabiso is going and what got him from, say, 18 to 26. I discovered Nietzsche. I still don't know who Nietzsche is. So, I hear Ed and these guys, I'll let them tell me who he is, but I want to know this youngster at 26, in the next 5 years, what is he going to apply, and how big can he be? Does he want to be big, or does he just want to be a small operator? I'd love to get into the mind of this guy and see how big he's going to be and how quickly he overtakes all of us combined here.
Right, thanks, Trevor. Yeah. As I say, I'm also amazed at Thabiso's depth and breadth of reading and knowledge that he's gained, which is phenomenal. And don't stop that, but do apply. I think that is the key. I think I said previously in one of these things, I read a lot of books at one stage as well, but that's pretty much all I did was I read them. I got some great ideas and some great thoughts, but I didn't take enough action in those early days. And I think, that's certainly something that I've learned as my life has gone on, is to take more action. And I still obviously enjoy the reading and getting the ideas and the inspiration, but it's more about, as Trevor was saying, getting that 1 or 2 or 3 ideas out of a book, a chapter, a page, and then just deciding what you're going to do with it. And I've got a little bit of a story. Well, let's start off. So if you ever got a favorite book that you really like, don't lend it to Trevor. Okay, because what'll happen is it'll come back with underlines and dog ears on the pages, and look at that. Would have horrified my father, absolutely horrified him. My father was an English teacher, and he loved his books, but if you did that sort of thing to his books, you were in big trouble. But he was a theorist, and I think that's where the difference is. What Trevor is a person of action, and my dad he loved his reading and he loved his books, and he could tell you lots of things out of it, but whether he actually did anything with any of it was debatable, other than collect them. It is important to take that action. I once was involved with a project with Trevor, and I tried to get him to take some action. He took some action and just about threw me out of his office. So then I bought him the book and gave it to him. Normally Trevor reads a book in about an hour and a half. He's going to find it now. That particular book took him 6 weeks to read. And it wasn't any longer or any more complicated than any of the, well, it was a bit more complicated. But there you go, Cracking the Millionaire Code. And the concept that we worked on there, we had a project that we were looking at, and we were debating on, and Ed, you'll like this. So we were debating on what the structures in terms of the shareholding and the like should be. And the initial sort of thinking was, as Trevor generally does, he'll keep 85%, and he might consider giving away, the 15% to some of the other participants and all the rest of it. And I said to him, the only way to get this project really to work is to give away 90% and keep 10%. And that's when he threw me out of his office. But but that was the right model. That was the right model, and we came around to that at the end of the day. So a bit of pacing and leading Ed, and got him there eventually. So I think it's one of the few times in the last 20 years I've actually managed to move him in the right direction. But there you go. So yeah, the highlights. Yeah, and a very interesting book with lots of challenges in it. So. But I think that's what we did, and worked through that, and we were one of the few individuals in Africa to crack that code within that book within those years. That was back in 28, 29, somewhere around there. But it took a lot of action, and that moved us into other action, which we then followed up on that. We then started our $1 million seminars, and we ran those. We got people like Monte Cassino, the Palazzo Hotel, to give us their penthouse suite free of charge. That took a little bit of action. So you want a decent recording venue, Palazzo? Thabiso, let's see if Trevor can get you into the Palazzo penthouse suite and do a bit of recording up there. That's quite an amazing venue, or even just the boardroom. But most people would, not even think about going to a 5-star hotel like that and saying, you know, give us your best room for free. You know, that's what Trevor did, and then we ran our sessions in those places. So sometimes all it takes is the ability just to ask. You know, you ask the right question, and I think that's what you know, what people sometimes don't realize. They ask the wrong questions. So learn to ask the right questions, and then just ask them. So yeah, I think that's my little bit.
And
yeah,
Ivan, if I can add in, all of that became wisdoms, which has now gone global. What frightens me is that we have so much material and content that we've put in, and we meet with so many amazing people of our age group that we know that have come through all of this content, and they've applied it, and they're doing things. And here comes a youngster, 26-year-old. So I'm only going to talk for myself. That actually puts me to shame here. That's why I'm excited with what's on the go. What can a young guy do with the type of content and information and everything that we have learned? I mean, there's probably 1,000 years worth of experience here. My 50, Ed's 350, Jasper's 250, Ivan's. So there's years and years of experience here into a young guy's mind like Thabiso, what he can do in 5 years with that information. And, you know, I'm trying to work out here, is Thabiso a rarity, or is he a reflection of what is there in vast numbers in Alex, in Joburg, in Africa, South Africa, Africa? Thabiso, you've got to show us, man. Yeah, put in the pressure on you.
good. All right. Well, there's some pressure to take action, but question is, topic for tomorrow. Anybody got any bright ideas? You know, the chat box has just descended down a toilet, I think, but that wasn't making music. So you said
The microchip was 60 years old yesterday.
Okay.
And I wondered whether we might think about what invention has done the most. Is that a goer?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe add a little caveat to that. What invention has had the biggest impact in your life, or in what you believe has had the biggest impact in the world? So yeah, we can look at it from those angles. Could be an interesting one. All right, so go out there, be inventive, have a great day, and we'll talk inventions tomorrow. Have a good one, folks. Cheers.
Bye.